Ready? Set? Here we go.
Hello, everybody. I really like our theme today, the word blend. Being a word person, I'd like to point out that it's versatile. It's both a verb and a noun. It's an evocative word. It's a broad concept with many applications. It's a mixture of different things or qualities. We're all a blend here. Different geographies, ethnicities, nationalities. We've heard some wonderful interpretations on this theme already today. I'm not here to talk about blending in a winemaking sense, nor in a culinary context. In fact, I called Ryan up a few weeks ago in a panic and asked, "Why did you ask me to speak again? What do you think that I can offer anybody here that's of use to them?" He told me he thought I could talk about how I blend my personal enjoyment of wine with wine as my profession. Even though, and I kid you not, he did say this, I'm relegated to the 7th circle of hell because I'm a PR person whose sole purpose on earth is to annoy people. And it got me thinking, I am a blend of many things. I am not just one thing. And I suspect many of us in this room have similar stories. My job is to break down barriers, to bring people closer to wine and to each other through stories and experiences. We are all here because we are communicators in some form or fashion. So I'll share a little bit about my experience blending in a professional sense and why I believe it's an element vital to each and every one of our success. This is my 5th DWCC, and I vividly remember my first time. I arrived by myself in Italy. I spoke no Italian. I knew no one except Ryan, Gabriella, and Robert, and we all know how much time they have for chit-chat at these conferences. And on top of that, I had signed up my company to sponsor a small table at one of the walk-around tastings. So I was an outsider. I wasn't part of the winery or writer crowd. I felt like I was crashing someone else's party, someone else's community. So how did I move beyond this? It's not a real revelation. In fact, it's not even that creative. I showed up to the first BYOB event, and I opened myself up to the experience. I started by myself in the back corner of the ballroom, and I quickly realized that nobody was going to come to me, no matter how fabulous my bottle of wine might be. So I started walking up to people. "Hi, I'm Katie. I'm new. Would you like to try my wine? I work for the company that makes the cork. I just moved to New York, and I thought it was the first bottle, and it was the first bottle I brought, and I thought that it was a sign. And I'd never had a grape called Moscafilero before, so that's why I brought it." Some were biased because I was representing a company, but the way I presented myself wasn't as a corporate hack. I blended it and expressed it as part of my own personal experience. Those of you who know me know that I'm naturally curious. I'm always asking why. But it might surprise you that talking to people that I don't know isn't easy for me. I think we're all afraid of rejection at some level. Most of us want to be liked by at least somebody. Reversing the tables, I've also struggled with my own biases and skepticism around authenticity. I have to admit, I was pretty anti-California wine for a while. My first wine experiences were with California wines. But when I moved to New York, a whole new universe was open to me. And those California wines that shepherded me into the wine world started feeling like overripe, overwrought, over-oaked, high-alcohol fruit bombs next to those racy Moscafileros. So I was closed for a while. But later I met people who were doing interesting things on small and large scales. I needed to reconfigure my concept of California wines. Not all California wines are monolithic. There are so many more preconceptions we need to overcome and open our minds to. Bruce Schoenfeld wrote about a similar experience with Australian wines. He also followed a path of rediscovery, surprise, and delight. He shared his own journey to encourage us to reassess our biases about Australian wine. We have so much collective expertise in this room: wine knowledge, writing, communication skills. We draw on that expertise to guide and counsel the audiences that we serve. But this can also create invisible barriers and distance from others. Separating ourselves from others is limiting. I find that by remaining open to the new, I can preemptively circumvent my own bias. I try to enter each experience mindful that every person is going to bring something new to the table. I ask myself, what can I learn? It's funny, I told somebody recently that the wine community is now a place that I really feel at home, accepted. It has evolved into a much different place for me than that first experience. I love this community because it's a constant intellectual and sensory challenge. There are interesting people who are in this business not for the money, not for the fame, but for love. And as critical and sometimes as cynical as we can all be, there's a certain magic about wine. It's an intricate mix of weather, dirt, personalities, and choices that blend to create moments in time. Each experience is different because of things like when we decide to open a bottle, or through pairing and sharing contexts. We are all gonna have a soft spot in our hearts for the rest of our lives for Bulgarian wine, because we're here. We've already met amazing people, and we will become part of the journey of this wine region. So here's my call to action: embrace the blend. Not like Simon. There are facts, there are emotions. They mingle together to create our realities. We're all amalgamations of many things. I'm a passionate wine drinker, a communicator, a connector, an advocate. Sometimes one of those elements is a stronger part of the mix, but a good blend in any context is made better, amplified by each of the elements that are contributed. We are more than the sum of the parts. In order to survive as communicators, writers, and as an industry, we have to think of new and creative ways of doing things differently. We have to reimagine ourselves, the way we look at things and what we do. Going back to my first DWCC experience, I didn't like feeling like an outsider. So I evolved. I brought myself closer to the experience of others at the conference. I realized I could be more than one thing. So I helped with harvests. I wrote and published articles. I've worked for a packaging company, a regional wine body. I buy and drink more wine than I care to admit in public. And I advocate for wines and stories that I find interesting with no vested interest other than to share an experience that I think people could enjoy. We can all be more than one thing. I don't believe that any of us has to give something up to grow, expand, and extend into something else. I believe we can be objective contributors even though everybody has a bias. Through our palate, our background, our opinions. That's what makes us human, not robots. We must add value to the story that we are sharing, whether it's as a producer, a region, a product manufacturer, or on behalf of the consumer. Otherwise, why are we here? What are we doing with our time, with our lives? Blending these components is vital to the success of the wine world that we live in. It's a grand, beautiful, complicated, diverse ecosystem that delivers on a higher calling that I think most of us in this room serve, which is to connect with the world around us and each other through the story, experience, and wonder of wine. Thanks.
All right.